Here's a quick visual and how-to voiceover for ProTaper bars and clamp-on grips. Start off with some tape to prevent the paint from scratching. Once the nut is loose, spin the top side of the mirror to remove it. Once the mirrors are removed, unscrew the bar ends to remove the grips. Note the plastic nubs on the inside of some of these housings. We'll get to that in a little bit. To remove the clutch side grip, I inserted 2 flathead screwdrivers and rotated in a circular fashion until removed. Try to keep the screwdrivers on opposite ends of each other. It makes the process a little bit easier. At this point, you cannot remove the clutch handle until the bars are fully removed. As stated before, once the handlebars are removed, the clutch handle is easily slipped off. Remember to slip the clutch handle first before centering the bars. Admittingly, I had a pretty tough time getting the new clutch handle onto the new bars. If anybody has a better technique for this, feel free to put them in the comments. As soon as I was able to get the clutch handle slipped on, I centered the bars in between the brackets as shown. Make sure to get on the bike and get a feel for the positioning before moving to the next steps. Keep in mind the bolts are not torqued down at this point. Now this is where the drilling starts, and that's not to scare anybody away, it was pretty easy to do. Notice the plastic nub on the controls. In order to fit them properly on the new bars, we'll have to drill a set of new holes to make sure they fit snugly. The easiest way I found to do this is set a piece of masking tape where the hole is to be drilled. Mark the edge of the plastic with a marker, and squeeze firmly where the controls are to be seated for their final positioning. This will leave a solid marker for you to drill your holes. Once you have your mark, use a punch to create a starter hole for your drill. Start with a small diameter and work your way up to the proper size. This will ensure a clean drill hole. Remove the tape and reseat the controls and tighten. No Loctite is needed for plastic fittings. Moving on to the throttle side, we'll notice another plastic nub that we need to take care of. I've seen a few people shave this nub off and use some tape to fasten it, but the drilling didn't seem too much of a problem for me. I used the same steps as before to start a drill point. As far as placement of the controls, I fit them loosely on the new bars and made sure they were ergonomically placed for my new hand positions. Since I'm using aftermarket clamp-on grips, I had to remove the throttle cables. The ProTapers come with universal throttle cams. I used the number 1 cam. This cam happened to be almost identical to the stock configuration. I slipped the throttle cable back on and tightened, but noticed the stock bars had a hole for a plastic nub for the throttle body, and mine had already been shaved off. Maybe the dealer mechanic had already done this prior to the sale. That did stick out as a little weird to me, but when I tightened, there wasn't any play, so I kept it like it was. The clutch side was even easier to install. There was no glue or wire needed. Once the grip has slipped on completely, all you have to do is tighten the screw. The screw comes with its own Loctite. When everything was fitted, I went back and torqued down the clamp screws. I used a torque wrench and wrenched down to 17 foot-pounds. I did find some debate on the pattern to tighten these, whether crisscross or top then bottom, but I couldn't find anything solid, so I used the crisscross method. Once you have the tachometer installed, clean the wires up with some zip ties and you're done. Here's a visual representation of the new positioning.